welcome, and thank you for joining us for our fourth and final Lunch and Learn of our 2022 series this year. I'm Todd Diefendorfer, Deputy Director of the City of Columbus Department of Neighborhoods. Wonderful to be here with you all today. Our work in the Department of Neighborhoods, we really serve as the front door for our residents to city government, with our services ranging from the 3-in-1 Customer Service Center to the Community Relations Commission. We want to make sure that residents are empowered and can be engaged in their neighborhood, and that's really the way that we have strong and healthy communities across our city. The Community Relations Commission is really here to support any resident or any individual in the City of Columbus who may experience discrimination. Today's conversation, though, we're going to dig deep on the issue of employment. For the Commission, what we see most common in this area are issues where individuals believe that they're being subject to discipline by their supervisor in a way that's different from their colleague. And this is because of their membership in a protected class. So protected class are things such as race, gender, national origin, or sexual orientation. When a complaint is filed, so we encourage residents to reach out to the Commission at columbus.gov/discrimination. At that website, you will find information on our process and the complaint form. Today, grateful to Jewish Family Services for hosting our conversation. Really want to thank all of our panel members for joining us. With that, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Karen Moscenter, CEO of Jewish Family Services, to offer a few opening remarks and then take the reins with the panel. Karen?
Great. Thank you, Todd. I'm going to scooch down here so I can see our panelists a little more clearly. Welcome, everyone, to Jewish Family Services. Thanks for joining us today for this conversation. And I'm going to start with just a brief introduction to our organization. Jewish Family Services was founded 114 years ago, and our mission is to help individuals and families achieve economic self-sufficiency and emotional stability. Our name fools a lot of people because it's Jewish Family Services, and people think that that must mean we're just for the Jewish community. And we are for the Jewish community, but we also serve the broader community, and that includes people of all races, religions, economic circumstances, and people from every zip code in Central Ohio. Our work is in two primary buckets. One is workforce development, which you're going to hear a lot about today. That is helping people find jobs and helping companies find talent. And the other side of our work is community services. That's counseling, case management, and service navigation, which is helping people connect to resources, whether that's public benefits or resources that we may have or that our community partners, some of whom you'll hear from today, the resources that they have available. We offer financial coaching in a new partnership with the City of Columbus through a financial empowerment center that's open to all residents, and also emergency financial assistance. That's another partnership with the city and with many local providers. And we offer services for seniors and their families and caregivers, helping folks navigate and families navigate the challenges of aging, and that includes all of our area's local Holocaust survivors. So I will stop there and just provide a little context for this discussion today. We're really going to talk about preventing the need for the things that Todd just told you about. So we want to prevent discrimination in employment, and we're going to talk about, you're going to meet some workforce providers, individuals that work in the workforce system, to talk about how we do that. And I want to lay the groundwork by thinking about the economic environment that we are in right now, where we do have many individuals who are still looking for employment, and at the same time we have employers that have a desperate need for talent and to fill positions to find and retain employees. So it does seem like a perfect opportunity for companies to tap into what I'm increasingly calling a hidden workforce. These are people that are in some of the categories that Todd mentioned, protected classes. And they're people that employers may not have considered hiring before for a variety of reasons. It may be that they just lack knowledge that this group of people exists and that they might be good employees for them. They may lack comfort with the cultural competencies required to successfully hire and retain these workers. And they may be worried about accommodations that they might need to make in the workplace and may be hesitant about their ability to successfully do that. So that's where our panel comes in. These are folks who are here to help, and they are all part of our community's workforce system. So we'll move to the panel now, and I'm going to introduce our members and ask them to share what their organizations are and the connection of their organization to today's discussion, including the hidden workforce or the populations they serve that are relevant to today's discussion. So we will start with Amy DeLong from the Columbus Civil Service Commission.
Thank you. As she said, I'm Amy DeLong, and I work for the City of Columbus as the Director for the Civil Service Commission. At the Civil Service Commission, I think most generally what I would say for this topic today that we do is I guess do several things, but the main thing we do is we post positions for the City of Columbus, and we do that through our website, and that's important to know because everything that you need to be employed by the City of Columbus, including a YouTube video that can tell you how to apply for positions within the City of Columbus, step by step, mouse showing you where to go. So if for some reason you may have English as a second language, for example, you can watch the video and know how to apply for the City of Columbus jobs. And I think mainly, once that happens, our main function is to ensure that those individuals who apply meet the minimum qualifications for the job or are tested. And what that ensures is that we have a more open, fair, and equitable city employment for anybody who actually is hired by the city.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Opal Brant from the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio.
Thank you, Karen. Again, my name is Opal Brant. I am the Director of Business Solutions with the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio. Our mission is primarily to educate the residents in this community to have the skills that they need to be successful at work. Our customers also employers in helping understand what that need is for the industry and creating pathways for individuals to access those opportunities. As a Workforce Development Board, we do a lot of our direct services through the Ohio Means Job Center, which is located in 1111 East Broad Street. That's designed to be a one-stop shop where individuals can walk in and get services as it relates to work and engage with a number of partners, many of which are sitting at this table, to access services within their organizations. The Workforce Development Board, as an organization that does not itself provide direct services to individuals, but instead leverages our Ohio Means Job Centers and partners in the community, serves as a convener of individuals with like missions in the workforce systems to create, to leverage all of our resources and the great that we're doing to make sure that we're touching each segment of our community and doing great work as it relates to workforce.
Thank you, Opal. Next on our panel is my colleague Tariq Mohamed from Jewish Family Services.
Thank you, Karen. I think most of the Jewish Family Services mission and vision and how long we've been supporting the community, Karen already mentioned. But one thing we do very well is also welcoming the stranger and protecting the refugee. And this is the thing that I'm very gravitated to Jewish Family Services. I've been here for 20 years, and this is exactly what we do. The other thing also we at Jewish Family Services really excel at is making sure the two cultures that are coming together in Central Ohio, which is the employer, who is an American-based and English-speaking based, and the foreign-born population, how can that bridge and how can we make sure those two communities work alongside? So more to discuss, obviously, but thank you.
Okay. And our final panelist is Ryan Burgess from Goodwill Columbus.
Yeah, thanks, Karen, and thanks, Todd, and thanks, Commission, for inviting Goodwill to be a part of today's conversation. Greatly appreciate it. So most folks know Goodwill because of our retail locations and our donation centers, which is great. But what most people don't know is that we are one of the largest workforce providers in the country. Across the country, about 1 million people come through our doors. 80% of those individuals have a high school degree or less. 60% represent some racial or ethnic minority, tens and thousands of veterans, thousands of individuals with disabilities, individuals that have had history with the justice system. So when Karen talks about hidden workers, those are the individuals that we serve at Goodwill. Here locally, Goodwill Columbus, and I'll give you our website address so you can look up all the things that we do. It's a new upgraded website. It's www.goodwillcolumbus.org. But here in Columbus, we have 3 business lines: our retail operation, which I've talked about, but then we also operate what I call our business services division, and that is we provide janitorial and unarmed security services to organizations across the county. And then finally, our people services division, and that is where we house our programs for individuals, our adult day programs for individuals with disabilities. We have a department called Work and Community Services, so we provide programs for individuals who have a dual diagnosis of a developmental as well as a behavioral disability. We provide residential services to individuals in their home who have a disability, and then finally all of our workforce programs that we offer to everyone across the community. Everything that we do, we're trying to line it up with what I call our 2030 goal, our strategic goal, and that is we want to equip 100,000 people with the tools to advance economic mobility through the power of work by 2030. And when I say economic mobility, what I mean is we want to help individuals become more productive in their first job or their next best job, which leads to promotions, which leads to pay raises. But then Karen, alluded to the dignity of work when we talk about the power of work. Yes, there's the power of the paycheck, but there's all the other intangibles too, the self-confidence, the self-empowerment, belonging to a group. You can't put a price tag on that, and that is what we're focused on.
Thank you. So let's get into some of the issues and challenges confronting these individuals from the hidden workforce. I'd like to just take a little bit of time talking about what are those challenges or issues that you see in your work that individuals confront in being able to access employment or retain employment, and what your organization is doing to help those individuals be more successful in the workforce. So Ryan, why don't you take this one first?
Sure, thanks Karen. So as I mentioned, Goodwill Columbus has a long legacy of serving individuals with disabilities in our community. So in certain situations, that does require additional resources, maybe additional equipment that employers provide, additional coaching. And there are other resources in the community as well. Assistive technology at Ohio State, they can help individuals find the equipment that they may need to find employment. Opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities is somebody else that we partner with to help those individuals find the resources that they need to find employment. But really, our main lane at Goodwill is to address that skills gap. There's so much talk about the pace of automation and technology and how that's changing our jobs. We're really focused on that basic career counseling, basic digital skills training, IT credentialing, and we do offer some certification programs for certain industries in healthcare and hospitality and retail. And the one personal example that I would give is somebody I consider a success story, Ida. I've been at Goodwill for a little over a year now, and Ida started to come to Goodwill, and I noticed her in one of our workforce labs. She was in there every day, and so I kind of struck up a conversation with her, and she'd been employed for a number of decades. But then going into the pandemic, she thought it might just be a kind of a natural time to resign from her current position, but she recognized she had to pivot, to reskill and upskill because her job was changing, and she saw that coming. So she took advantage of a number of our counseling programs, our IT credentialing programs, and successfully went through those programs. And then as a bridge, because we're a large employer, we were able to provide Ida with a position in our HR department while she was looking for employment. And I'm happy to report that she has a wonderful position at Nationwide now, using all of the new education and tools that she gained from working with Goodwill. So that's just kind of an example of some of the things that we do at Goodwill.
Opal, could you speak a little bit about some of the programs that the Workforce Board has been involved in or helped initiate that help people, especially from these protected classes or the hidden workforce, be more successful in obtaining employment?
I think from my vantage point as working directly with businesses, we have an opportunity to consult companies as they're looking to access the talent that our workforce system are working with, because believe it or not, sometimes businesses have misconceptions of people with disabilities, people who may have experienced incarceration and things like that. And a lot of companies are interested in tapping into that talent due to the current climate, but some just don't know or have like those misconceptions. So what we do is incentivize companies to work with our workforce partners within the job center at Goodwill, and we incentivize them by providing them with on-the-job training opportunities, providing them reimbursements of salary for giving those individuals opportunities to prove the great work that our workforce system has done to give them the skills that they need to be successful. So I think that the other thing that we try to do is once a person is employed, we want to educate business and help empower them to create a culture what would be powerful for individuals coming in with what we consider the hidden workforce. So for example, we've made investments for diversity, equity, inclusion, and access incubator programs to help companies, small to medium-sized businesses, understand what it looks like to have true diversity and inclusion goals, and how to create those plans and create a culture that is going to be sustainable for people that are coming into their organization that they may not be used to serving. The other things that we definitely will invest in as a board through our job center and others is the coaching of individuals who come to the job center or come to our partners that are looking for the next opportunity. We want to empower them on understanding what their skills are, so we provide professional development for coaches and allowing them to make sure that they are able to help people understand what their rights are, understand how to access those careers, how to understand who they are, and understand the vast opportunities that are available to them, because you'd be surprised to know that there are a lot of individuals that don't know how rich this Columbus is as far as the industries that they're able to tap into.
Tariq, can you talk a little bit about the ways that your team, and I know in particular working with new Americans and refugees in the community, and we have colleagues that serve other populations as well that from these groups. But can you talk a little bit about what that looks like, some of the challenges that people face that make it difficult for them in the workplace, and how we work with them to address those issues?
Sure. So just to give a context, 30 years ago, most Americans that lived in Franklin County actually were born in Franklin County. And 30 years forward, you see an influx of foreign-born population. And the foreign-born population, we shouldn't carpet everyone as the IT person that came from certain parts of the world. Most of Franklin County foreign-born residents are refugees. And as anybody knows, refugees have gone through internal unrest, refugee camps for 20 years, and struggled, and there's a huge education gap within that itself. So coming to Franklin County, the resources that one needs to get the opportunities that similar to the American born, linguistically speaking, it would take about 7 years to acquire the same language as a person that born in the United States. And that is a long time for someone to get that type of employment to be successful. And our job is to make sure that we do two things. One, support the foreign-born population in terms of the cultural ways that Americans would get a job, a resume, an interview, references. If you were born outside the United States and came here 6 months ago, your references are really irrelevant because of that you just got here. So when employers are asking those things, are very, very challenging. So those are the kind of things that we educate employers. And once immigrants and refugees get the job, the challenge always is, how do two separate people can work together harmoniously? And that is the challenge as well. Americans, culturally, things have to go fast, things have to go quickly, but some people that came from other parts of the world, there is a religious prayer break, there is a ways of explaining things, even though the employer may not discriminate against some of the folks, but the way the system works itself is challenging for two cultures coming together and working under that same umbrella. So what Jewish Family Service does is a huge education to the employer, but also educating the refugee community how the American workforce, American workplace, the cultural workplace that works. So we both get those educational pieces and make sure that harmoniously work together. And then we've been very successful at that.
Okay. And Amy, would you like to speak about some of the challenges from the perspective of the Civil Service Commission of trying to promote a more inclusive workforce and some of the challenges that people face when trying to apply for jobs, and how you're trying to work to make the system more open and accessible?
Absolutely, thank you. The Civil Service Commission really serves the departments of the city, and people I don't think understand that. We serve them in the sense that we are trying to help them hire the best employees that they can hire from all walks of life. And so a part of that process is understanding who it is that they're trying to hire. And so our individuals who work for me go out to those departments and actually sit down individually and see what the mechanics are of that job, understand the minute details of that job. They are really working to have an idea of what minimally has to be done for the person to come in on that first day of a job, so the individuals don't have to come in with outstanding knowledge of everything they have to do the minute they get here. So what we're trying to do is trying to find out what it is that they need to do minimally, and that's why we have what we call minimal qualifications for the job. And so civil service, I think people initially think we test one test and it tests for every position in the city, when in reality, those individuals are going out and working with the people on the job and their supervisors, and we actually test for over 250 positions. And what that does is allows individuals to come in who may have basic skills in Word or Excel or more clerical, and that's what's being tested. They're not expected to know permits if we're going to be hired in the permits department, or safety if they're hired in the safety department to do clerical work. They're expected to understand just the basics of clerical work. And the things that we do to make sure that we're testing that is, like I said, those individuals go out and do that, but what we want to also make sure is that the people who are coming in to take those tests are comfortable and feel like they know what they're getting into when they come in, because testing, frankly, is nerve-wracking. Nobody likes to take tests. I don't like to take tests. But what it assures is that those people can come in and do that job. But the things we do, to get back on topic here, is we do study guides. So if you get on our website, we have guides and resources. You get on the website, it actually will go through all of those resources if we have specific study guides for those tests. Like I said earlier, we have how to apply, and when I say that, it's an individual sitting down and it shows where the mouse is going on the computer so you can see exactly step by step what you have to do to apply for the job. Same thing for setting up your profile. And I do want to say, please set up a profile, because once you do that, we have an opportunity for you to use job alerts, which makes it easy. So if you go in and pick the topics that you're interested in applying for, like if I'm interested in human resources or you're interested in clerical, it gives you a wide variety of about 50 topics. You can select those that you want to be informed of or notified when we have those opportunities to test. And you'll get an email or a text depending on what you would like. So that information comes to the individual. We also do testing clinics. So if someone's nervous and worried about that, or there's actually maybe even here with the Jewish Family Services, if you say, hey, we have a group of people who might want a testing clinic, we would be more than happy to send our staff over to do a testing clinic for those individuals.
We're going to take you up on that. I'm confident. That is
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
And Goodwill, too.
Yeah, perfect. And, right now, like I said, I looked up yesterday, we had 93 job postings. And so in those many of those postings are actually testing opportunities right now for individuals. And so to talk about the testing part, what we're trying to do now is for English as a second language, for tests that time is not an essence of the test, like a 911 operator or something like that, we give twice as much time to take those tests as long as the individual tells us ahead of time so that we can schedule them separately for that test. So that they're not getting interrupted by the next group of people coming in to take a test, because we test multiple times during the day. We actually have tips on completing applications. We try, if you get on our website, like I said, this is one thing I've worked really hard on the last few years, and that is getting your guides and resources and getting your useful reference items. We actually have city starter lists. So if you want individuals who want to just look on there to find out if you don't have to have any minimum qualifications at all, we give you that list of those jobs on there that you, right out of high school, no experience whatsoever. What jobs can you apply for? We give you the most common subtests. When I say testing is nerve-wracking, the subtest will say if it's map reading, if it's math, if it's logic and reasoning, and it'll give you actually what those individual things pertain. But even some of the things we're doing now is we're actually, when people apply to take the test, we'll send them a practice test. As a part, if you're signing up, you're going to get a practice test back so you can practice before you come in. We're not trying to scare people away. We're not trying to make it hard. We want people to be employed at the City of Columbus, and we want a diverse workforce. And the way we know we have to do that is actually create an environment where people feel comfortable coming in to take those tests. And what do those tests do for us? It means that you are, like I said earlier, involved in a more open, fair, and accessible workforce, because it's not based on who you know, it's based on what you know.
The discussion about the tests and the getting the alerts on the website and all those kinds of things, making me think about one of the barriers for many of the populations that we're talking about today is around digital skills. You know, the ability to access the internet, to have technology, to have those skills. And I'm asking this in part, I know we're working with Goodwill right now on piloting more digital skills training. And I'm thinking of it in the context of people for whom English is not their first language, and that challenge. Also for older adults. In today's economy, there are a lot of older adults that are looking for employment right now. They're on fixed incomes, or maybe they thought they could retire, and now maybe that's looking more questionable, and they're looking for employment, better employment or employment again. Can any of you speak to how we're addressing those kinds of issues with populations that might have challenges on multiple fronts in getting into employment?
Can I go out of order real quickly?
Sure.
I want to add something that Tariq said, and Karen, you mentioned this. We've talked a lot about the individuals and the resources that we can provide. I do just quickly want to say, maybe to a small business owner that's watching, or you mentioned businesses, and Tariq mentioned employers. This is the other part of the equation, because they're the ones who have the jobs. So I would ask, for business owners out there to engage the Workforce Board, the Ohio Means Job Center, nonprofits, the education system. We can help you find these populations of people who really, really want to find a good position. The days of having plenty of people lining up to fill out applications, in my opinion, those days are over, at least for the foreseeable future. So I would really challenge the business community to try to engage the nonprofits, the education system, to help you find these individuals, because that's something else. That's another resource that we provide as well, beyond just the resources for individuals. So sorry about going out of order there. So
Why don't we run with that
Yeah.
for now? We can come back to the digital inclusion side, because I know there's a lot going on that employer side, and you're right, it is critical to how do we help employers. Amy shared some of what the Civil Service Commission, as the city, representing the city as an employer, is addressing some of those issues. How about some of the ways that your organizations are working with businesses to make sure that they can tap into this workforce? Opal, you look like you're ready to jump in.
I seem to have that face also. I try. But so from my standpoint, we help companies come up with what we call a community talent acquisition strategy, and it's really as a way to spider in. The goal is to have one door for companies to access to spider into all of the individuals at Jewish Family Services, Goodwill, some youth providers, different targeted populations for them to be able to tap into all of them at one time. So I mentioned earlier the Workforce Advisory Council. What the goal of that council is to do is to leverage each other's resources, whereas you just heard of a partnership with Jewish Family Services and Goodwill Digital Literacy. I know we partner with Goodwill on the digital literacy side too, because they do that very well. So we consult with companies to help them better understand the system, because it may seem easy to us, but it's very complicated for companies to really access and to do their work well. And companies are having issues, and we talked about them with talent. Their HR departments are having the same issue. They just don't have the bandwidth to really engage with all of us each day. So we are actively trying to figure out ways to help companies have one door or two doors to access the system. We do that by hosting job fairs where we're inviting all of our workforce partners in to bring their talent in. We do that by incentivizing companies through, like I mentioned before, on-the-job training, where we are providing them with resources that they can pull from the groups that our system is working with. So those are some of the ways really helping companies figure out in a more efficient and concise way to access the community talent within our organization. And that's where we make a lot of our investments at the board level.
Tariq, do you want to jump in with?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I mean, when I speak about the Jewish Family Services umbrella of the workforce, I'm only speaking to it from the foreign-born population, but obviously our umbrella of serving the community at large is also as big as the helping the immigrants. One area that I've noticed employers are somewhat hesitant sometimes is once a foreign-born is presented as to apply for a job, is the immigration status comes up. And one of our role at Jewish Family Services is really to explain or distill that complex American immigration system, because 95 to 99% of the people that we serve here serve in our programs at Jewish Family Services is a foreign-born who's a refugee. And refugees, by definition, they're legal to work in the United States indefinitely. So the only difference between a refugee and a foreign-born is they can't vote. So legally they could work, and most employers do not understand that complexity of what documents to show, where does it prove the person can work, the work authorization paperwork, all those things, all those packets we explain in a very easy way to the HR, so there's no delay in hiring of the individual. The other thing is the religion. Most Somalis is the mic okay? So I know.
I apologize if you're having trouble hearing.
So
They're mowing. Of course, right now.
yes, right now.
We'll
But
speak up a little.
yeah, so I think religion also is one area that I mentioned earlier. Is most employers have not dealt with people that would take breaks in certain times to pray. And if you're working at a distribution center, time is sensitive, delivery is sensitive, packets to be shipped is very sensitive. How do you manage then for 50 people to take a break at certain times that are not allocated? So those are the kind of things we explain, and 100% right, you're right. Employers need to partner with us. We need to partner with employers because they are part of this equation. We explain, and most employers have been generous and kind, not only to religion, but also language, testing, all the things. As you mentioned, some people are scaling, not making it easy, but making it easier to understand how the testing works, how can people pass, and all those things. Jewish Family Service is always in the center of that explanation. So,
How about job retention? We've talked a lot about getting people into employment. What are the ways that we're trying to help people stay employed? or get into those next better jobs so that it's more of a career pathway, more opportunity. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So I guess I'll share one thing that we're trying to do at Goodwill as an employer ourselves is try to illustrate pathways in a more detailed fashion. Because if you come in at a certain level, that might not be the wage you want to be at for the next 20 years. But if we as an employer can demonstrate to that person, here are the competencies, here are the skills that you need to attain, and we'll help you get to this wage that you want to be at. So I think we at Goodwill, I know a lot of other employers are trying to do a better job of building out better learning and development systems to just really clearly, in a very detailed way, illustrate to your employees how they can be promoted. Because it's easy to take for granted that an individual might know what it takes to be promoted or to move to the next position. We're trying to be more intentional about it and telling them exactly here are the ways that you can get promoted through the organization. And I'm hopeful that that will help our retention.
No, well, one thing that we're doing as a board is helping companies better understand apprenticeship models and other work-based opportunities. A lot of the individuals, the hidden populations that we're talking about, start at the entry level. A lot of times they stay at the entry level, so we're working with companies to help them invest in their frontline staff through supporting financially the training and development of those individuals into higher wage opportunities. So we do that a couple of ways, through incumbent worker training. One pilot program that we're working on now is with one particular employer is salary release. So they've identified a few of their frontline workers, and they've identified and helped those individuals explore different career opportunities within that company. Those individuals are very interested. They've done the career shadowing. So sometimes with people that we work with, they just don't have the time to take off to go to training. They don't have the, they just can't take off because they need the resources even if they go to part-time. So we're working on an income support pilot that is supplementing the income of those individuals that work for that company to go through that training in a short period of time so they can get into that higher paid job quicker. So those are just some of the things that we're trying to do to help accelerate the advancement of these individuals within companies, and also influencing companies to make those investments to train their own employees, because especially, I mean, with the climate that there is now, I mean, you want to, as a retention model, do that because you just can't afford to have people go somewhere else.
Tariq, I know you get calls all the time from companies that we're working with about issues that come up. Can you maybe provide some examples?
Thank you, Karen. Briefly, I'll say that one of the challenging things a lot of employees don't understand is people who are at an entry-level job, maybe it's their first job in the United States, or maybe they're younger, the resources that somebody in their 30s or 40s and mid-career do not have, such as transportation. If somebody's transportation is not secured at their 1 week or 2 weeks at a job, what happens to that person? They have no other resources to combat that. There's no neighbor that can help, where us here, we have other resources that we can manage if we miss transportation or if something goes wrong with our transportation. Childcare is one huge issue, especially in the pandemic, that we had to face at Jewish Family Services, how to mitigate and how to retain people that if the daycare is closed, but they have to show up at a job. So we had to use, it takes a village sometimes. So we had to use other resources that if somebody else can watch the child, or we had to, get neighbors to help each other out. Employers sometimes, unfortunately, they have something called the point system, where if somebody misses because of transportation or something like that, those points ran out, that means the person, even though they were amazing at their job, they will lose the job. And we have to talk to employers about these circumstances have happened. Can we have a conversation about retaining their job? So job retention is so important for us here, and I'm sure all of you sitting with me, we take it very seriously. We talk to employers, we explain, we do the best we can to retain their jobs as much as possible.
Amy, how about from the perspective of the city in terms of retaining a workforce?
Thank you. I think we really approached this a little differently in the last probably 4 to 5 years. I guess right before the pandemic, we saw some need to really look at that. And then as the pandemic went on, it became even greater once we came out of it. I think we started working with organizations like Columbus City Schools to come up with apprenticeship ideas and start working with them to develop the education portion while we would do the apprenticeship portion of that. We're still working with them today. We have probably, I want to say 8 maybe classifications that are apprenticeship-like, where they'll come in and they automatically go to the next level without testing, as long as they meet certain criteria. One of the ones that I think was here when I came was the operator in training, which is at our wastewater treatment plants, which really are jobs that are hidden gems where people can make a tremendous amount of money, but really need more of a science background, and when I say that, a desire, and some math. So if you have people who are good at math and have that knack that can do some science, our operator in training is a job that you're there, you take an EAP certification, and you go up to the next level, and it just keeps going. I want to say there's people making over $30 an hour in some of those jobs easily. And we're trying that with some of our other jobs that we just are finding out kind of those trades kind of skills are not as popular these days. I would say that's what I would say is kind of like a trade for us. Also in our testing, if you come into the city, the best part about it is up to that individual, not to their supervisor, to actually go take the next test. And from my standpoint at civil service, if somebody has taken a test and not done as well as they would like, we'll sit down with them and look at the areas where they're testing, and we'll do that for individuals outside of the city too. So if someone comes in and gets in the 70 band and goes, I really thought I did better than that, I always try to explain, you did great if you're actually made it to the bands. It's just you're competing with everybody else that took it that day or that time period for which we were testing, because it's called competitive testing, right? So it's sitting down with them saying, really, here, you didn't do well in your word part. So here's some training that you can take to help you for the next time you take that. And so we offer tests every 2 years, but we have an opportunity to Rule 6 test every 6 months. So if somebody has tested, somebody is interested in getting in, there's opportunities to do that and to move up. So if you're in the lower band, which we're hoping goes away as a part of the charter review that we're doing right now, that's just one band. But if you're in that and we had an opportunity to test again, then you could move up during that time frame as well. And I guess last but not least, I think as an employer, offering opportunities for tuition assistance and those kind of things has really helped retention and people being able to have those opportunities to see promotional opportunities for them.
Great. I think let's pause for a second and see if we have questions. And yes, looks like we do. Oh, this is a great question. Do most of these resources that have been mentioned have a cost? What differences are there between paid and free job programs? Who wants to jump in there?
I will really quickly, and I know Marlene, my head of marketing, would not be happy with me because I neglected to say that our workforce programs are free. Absolutely. So yes, all of our workforce programs that we have, they are free to the individual, 100%.
As you know, Karen, of course, yes, our program is definitely free for individuals that are living in the city of Columbus and Franklin County.
Yeah, and likewise with all of our partners, at no cost to the individual.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking about the fact that this isn't part of this question, but the difference between, there are free programs, but people's ability to participate in those programs, the time it takes, what are folks in the community doing, your organizations and our partner organizations, to ensure that people can access those training programs? People who need to be working, have childcare needs, maybe elder care needs. What's being done to help people access employment who have those kinds of barriers?
I want to make a bit of a clarification. So through our job center, we offer tuition assistance through scholarships. We call them ITAs. The training doesn't happen within that job center. So for example, if an individual qualifies and wants to go to training at Columbus State, to use that as an example, the tuition cost is covered by that. So that's not a free training, but we're just covering the cost of that. But I will say, from what I've seen, that there's been great flexibility within our organizations as well as with training providers to provide classes more quickly. The short-term training is key nowadays, definitely at different times. I've seen people do online only. Just due to the pandemic, that's accelerated tremendously with a lot of different training opportunities online, which is not a good fit for everybody because we talked about the digital literacy issues. But then the evening hours, the weekend hours, so I've definitely seen there a lot. This was being done before, but a lot more flexibility with the times that trainings are done and even the length of programs as far as piecing out programs and having many credentials throughout a program where people can get short-term credentials, like mini credentials, whereas a program was once 8 months, now it's like you can get certain things done in 4-week increments.
So there are a combination of free programs, free training opportunities, paid training opportunities, but resources available for some of those training programs. As you were talking, I was thinking about Columbus State's new accelerated training centers that are offering short-term credentials, free programs to help people in a short period of time get into higher careers or higher wage positions. Tariq, go ahead.
Yeah, and for us, for Jewish Family Services, I think we meet the individuals where they are, geographically speaking. So obviously we're located near Bexley, Berwick, and most of the people that we serve in the New American community are living in the Morris Road, Cleveland Avenue. So we partner with community-based organizations for them to host us so we can serve the population that live there instead of for them to, it's going to be difficult for them to get to where we are here. We provide also people that have similar cultures and languages, so we don't have to hire outside translators and interpreters. Our staff is part of that community. And that's another way to make it easier for people to actually access our services. More importantly as well, we host some of those events, targeted hiring events. We invite the actual employer, and instead of all the community going to where the employer is, could be further from here, we invite the employer, and the employer could interview, could test, could actually do the drug screening, could do all the things that you need as an HR to do all of those things to bring them on board. It makes it one-stop shop, so to speak. And that's what we've done with our community partners local in Central Ohio.
Actually, the next question here was about, we've already addressed some of it, about the extent to which the resources that we've been talking about help with things like transportation and childcare, because we know those are real challenges for many of the individuals that we've been talking about today who are seeking to get into employment. And are we seeing, so I guess I'm thinking about it from the perspective of the job seeker or the worker, and also from the companies. Are we seeing a change there or an openness to help people address those issues?
Yes, absolutely. The market is demanding it. They have to do that to be competitive. And I think they recognize when they start to provide those types of benefits, you might see some greater loyalty from individuals. And as we talked about employers early, I think a number of them are now starting to see a number of the populations that historically they may have never recruited from. They're tapping into them now, and they're finding these are some of the most loyal workers they'll find, whether it's individuals with disabilities or formerly incarcerated individuals. Study after study is now showing those can be some of your most loyal. So not only do this, a lot of big companies do this because of corporate social responsibility, and that's fine. But there's a business case to be made here too, that when you have these loyal employees, your turnover costs are going to drop dramatically. So there is a return on investment there. So yes, I do think we're seeing employers do more of that.
I would definitely. I mean, like the talent is power right now. They really need employees. So I would say, and this may be a bit early for this, that if individuals out there are having issues with accessing our system, like please reach out to us. I mean, anyone, because we're able to bring those employers to you, and they're willing to come. And as a great example that Tariq mentioned, like the accessibility is key. What I've seen just in general conversation with folks, people just don't understand what's out there to them, because there is a lot out there and available to you as a resource to be able to access the training that you need for these in-demand occupations, but also the employers that you may be interested in, and employers that you may have never even heard of. So I think that that's the access is just key to all of us. We have to do more of going out to the community, going to where people are, because there's so much out there, and there's a lot of different competing things, and we have to do it together. So I just thought it was important to kind of mention that employers are definitely willing and able to go where they are, go where people are, and the training providers as well.
That's a good lead into this next question about how has COVID changed the needs of employers, and has it been a positive or beneficial in change for employees, is a question. But maybe we can think about it a little more broadly too. What's been the impact of COVID in terms of people's ability to get into the workforce, and the way employers are approaching this situation of trying to tap into a hidden workforce?
I'll start. I think for employers, I mean, this is one of the strategic questions that they're trying to understand, is the hybrid work environment, remote work. You see companies going all remote, and you see other companies are saying, no, everyone needs to be in the office. So a big question, I think it depends on the industry. You know, my personal opinion is it's a net plus for individuals because of the remote work option now. So again, I think this is going to provide an opportunity for a lot of the populations we've been talking about. Because remote work is going to become more available, I believe there's going to be more options for those individuals. So I believe it's a net plus for the employees.
I think for us, obviously, when we talk about COVID, there's 3 years of when COVID we're talking about. I think the challenge at first for us, all of us here sitting, I think, was the first 6 months of 2020. That is when most people lost their jobs, and we at Jewish Family Services had to figure out, all the folks that lost our jobs were in our programs, what are they going to do? And not only from supporting them through access to food, access to rental assistance, access to all of that, but also how am I going to earn, you know, if I don't know the technology that you mentioned earlier, how can I even apply for unemployment? And that took a huge amount of staff to be reallocated from employment to supporting individuals access those things, because no internet, English is not their first language, and I don't know if any of you went to the websites. It's very complicated, and it's not easy just to navigate through. So that is one area that I feel like we covered at Jewish Family Services, making sure that the foreign-born population that do not know how to access that service able to access. And after that, it was pivoting to, well, you know, transportation is not running as it used to. How can we get to work? That's one area. And then employers demanding, well, instead of 8 hours, I need you 10 hours. No, I need you 12 actually. Could you do more than 12 whenever the job is done? So then we had to explain to the employer, the folks that cannot make it because of childcare. So there's parts of COVID that each time it brought a different challenge for us as workforce providers, but also explaining to employers how to retain people, also how people, individuals looking for a job, how could they access the other resources that were available to them within the community. So we were constantly given information to both sides, employer and people who are looking for a job.
Yeah, clearly COVID has had an incalculable impact on the workforce environment, on the world. And I think the point that you both made is the flexibility from the perspective of employers and job seekers. I mean, it's presented, those who are addressing that flexibility and adjusting are having a lot more success, and it also has opened up a lot of opportunity. We've got one more question here, which I think is a great one for us to close on. This is an audience member that asked, what can I do to promote inclusiveness at my job? How can I positively affect workplace culture? Any thoughts on that? We can think about that too as employers.
I think that what comes to mind for me personally, I think that what they could do is ask the right questions, and then learn how to ask the right questions to advocate for what they might need. So for example, what would it hurt to go to a manager or a boss to say, hey, a lot of us on our floor, we need a certain prayer time because we would be able to do X for you if we were able to have this amount of time off and then instead work earlier instead of later. Like really present those, become problem solvers and present that to employers, because a lot of times employers just don't know what to do. Now there's some employers who are stubborn and they just won't change, but sometimes you and your voice will present an idea that could really change your culture and environment, because you yourself as an individual could be very impactful. That's the first thing that came to my mind, like, is to really ask the right questions. You may be surprised.
I agree with that. I feel like I'm very fortunate to work for the city and for Mayor Ginther, who is tapped into that wholeheartedly in every way. One of the big things that we're doing right now is Opportunity Rising, where we are looking across the board at our departments, totally across the city, to determine how we can meet those needs of individuals. That's going to make us a better workforce. It's going to make us a better city. I'm so excited about it. I feel like I can't say enough about it, but I think there's lots of opportunities for, like she said, to have that open communication, to talk to your leaders. I think it's a necessity now, and those stubborn employers are going to have to get on board because the employee, the people, are going to demand that, and they should.
That's right. They'll go work for you.
Hey,
Yeah. Well, it kind of brings
please
us,
do.
Yeah, it brings us full circle to that idea of the opportunity that is here right now for that kind of open communication, the education, the learning about the needs of different populations that can meet our workforce needs, and for individuals from those populations to be aware of the resources that will help them get where they want to go and achieve their goals, their employment goals. So that's, we're just about out of time here, so that was a nice way to wrap it up. Before we go, I wanted to ask about, I know we have some community resources that will be available as a result of this session for folks to learn more about the organizations that are part of the panel today, also members of the Workforce Advisory Council that Opal mentioned, which includes Goodwill, Jewish Family Services, and many other workforce providers that are providing these types of services and training programs. So if you are interested in learning more, you can go to the Community Relations Commission's website, columbus.gov/discrimination, and there will be materials there that you can access to get more information. Okay? Well, thank you all. Thank you to the city, to the Department of Neighborhoods and the Community Relations Council for sponsoring this. Thank you all for participating, and thank you to those who tuned in.